back to my channel and my craft room. I'm Kelly Wicker and I'm so happy to have you here. Pickleball meets card making. Today I'm playing with the new Spellbinders release. This is from This Is the Life collection. It's called Born to Dink, making the cutest little sporty scene with plenty of colors, sparkle, and puns. So without further ado, let's get into the card making fun, y'all. So y'all, today I'm playing with another brand new release from Spellbinders. This one is part of the This Is the Life collection, and I'm using the Born to Dink etched die set. Super cool, y'all. If you're a pickleball lover or know someone who is, and I do, this set is really cute, and there are coordinating clear stamps with fun sentiments too. Really cool. So Spellbinders did send me this set. I'm an affiliate, and I'll have my Spellbinders affiliate links listed down below in the description box. Clicking through those links helps Spellbinders know that I sent you, and I appreciate it more than you know. So for my card today, let me bring it in here real quick. I stuck with some the colors on the packaging. Let me show you the packaging real quick. They are so good, so I figured why not mess with it and just go ahead and work with the colors on the packaging. And then for the background, I did some ink smushing with Distress Oxide inks. Really fun to do that. And then I used my ink smusher tool that I made. So this is the other card that I made. I kind of went a little crazy with the ink smushing, but I was having so much fun. And this one I did use some splatter products from Spellbinders that are pretty new, and just like I said, I was having a lot of fun, so I wanted to use those products, and I thought it really made that background stand out. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the card making fun, y'all. Okay, so before I started assembling everything, I die cut out all the little pieces in advance, and I kept everything organized in my medium-sized Craftstock tray so I wouldn't lose any of the tiny die cuts. Those trays are honestly a game changer for card making projects that have a lot of small elements, especially when you're working with dies like the Spellbinders Born to Dink etched dies. I highly recommend having a couple on hand if you enjoy die cutting, paper piecing, or scene building on cards. For cardstock, I am using Spellbinders colors, and I tried to match the packaging as closely as possible because the packaging artwork really helped guide my overall card design. And I just really liked the colors. They were fun and cheerful. And the bright sporty color palette makes this set perfect for pickleball themed cards and summer cards. Plus it takes the guesswork out when you're trying to design a coordinated card front. So when it comes time to adhere all of the pieces, I grabbed my reverse tweezers along with one of my embellishment tools to help pick up and position the tiny die cut pieces. For liquid adhesive, I'm using my go-to Barely Art glue and the Spellbinders fine line bottle so I can get precision glue placement without making a mess. I also recently picked up the pink glue holder. It's the same one Kathy uses in her videos. Hers is white. I just like pink, so that's why I got that one. And I will have it linked down below in the description box. It's a great glue holder. Highly recommend it to have it in your for your craft desk. This die set is such a fun addition to your stash because pickleball has become so popular and most of us know someone who plays. I love that you can customize your own pickleball paddles, add the pickleball and the net, and then finish the card with a punny sentiment using the coordinating Born to Dink clear stamp set. The sentiment set includes 13 different pickleball themed sentiments, and it even has a coordinating strip die so you can quickly cut the sentiments out without manually trimming. It makes the whole process so easy and clean, especially if you like professional looking card fronts. If you're a paper crafter, card maker, or enjoy scene building with die cuts, this set is a creative way to make pickleball birthday cards, pickleball thank you cards, team cards, coach cards, or even just fun cards for friends who play. It's a great example of how Spellbinders continues to add unique lifestyle and hobby-themed products into their releases. And it fits perfectly into this This Is the Life collection. One of the things I really liked about this set is how easy it is to piece together. It honestly takes no time at all, y'all. I know some people don't love paper piecing, but I find it really therapeutic, so I don't mind it one bit. And it's a perfect kind of crafting task where you can just zone out and enjoy the process while everything comes together. You can put on a YouTube video, 30-minute show, something like that. And that's what I do. And it really helps with the process. So speaking of pickleball, one of these days I really need to go and try it. They've actually offered it a couple of times on cruises that we've been on, and I always say I'm going to do it, but then I never get around to it. Next cruise I should just go for it. Pickleball kind of reminds me of badminton, at least because of the net and the ball and the paddles and things like that. Which actually ties into a little fun fact about me. I was on the badminton team in high school, and I even went to state. I was pretty good at it, so I feel like I might naturally be pretty decent at pickleball too. We'll see. Okay, so I'm kind of laughing at myself over here, y'all. I'm struggling with this voiceover a little bit, as you can probably tell. This one is definitely going to be a longer video for me, which I usually try to keep my videos, around 15 minutes, somewhere in there. Sometimes they go a little longer, 18, 20 minutes, but I usually try to keep them short. But this one is a little longer, I think, today, so if I sound a little flustered or like I'm trying to squeeze things in, that's why. I'm also going off a script. I usually do, because it helps me keep my thoughts straight and fill in those awkward empty spots while I'm editing. Voiceovers are a whole thing. If you know, you know. So, but seriously, y'all, can you see yourself creating with this set? I think a lot of you are going to have ideas for this one right away, especially if you know someone who plays pickleball. And make sure you check out the rest of this is the Life collection, because there are some really fun pieces in this release that coordinates beautifully. So I think the cardstock colors look so good together. For the yellow, I really wish I had beeswax on hand because it's such a nice bright yellow, but I ran out. So I'm using Tuscan for the yellow instead. It still works, but beeswax would have been great for this. Between the yellow, the teal, and the little pops of brighter colors, this whole palette just feels like spring and summer to me. And honestly, I'm so ready for summer, y'all. It's actually gotten cold here in Texas over the last few days, and even had to turn the heater on. I am not a winter girl. I don't mind the occasional cold snap, but I would so much rather have warm sunny days and summer weather. So playing with these bright colored cardstocks is definitely putting me in a spring summer mood. So I'm just finishing up the last of the die cutting here, and seriously, y'all, aren't these paddles just the cutest? There's something about the shape and the little layered details that just makes them so fun to put together. For this card, I decided to switch up the color of the ball and go with an orange one instead of a green one. I just thought it would be fun and a little extra pop of color. And that's the great thing about this set. You can really play around with the colors and make it sporty, girly, bright, masculine, or whatever fits the person you're making this card for. Just really fun. Okay, y'all, now that the paper piecing is done, it's time to get to the next step to create today's background for today's card project. And I'm getting out Tim Holtz Distress Watercolor cardstock because this holds up to all the inks and the water. And I'm getting out my little DIY ink smoosher tool that I made. This idea actually came from MB Cards. I will have her channel linked down below in the description. Make sure to check her out. A lot of great inspiration there. She puts out a lot of content. Highly recommend watching her videos. I have another video on my channel showing how I use it, but I really love this little DIY tool for ink smooshing because it gives you more control than just pressing your cardstock straight into a puddle of ink. So for inks today, I'm using Distress Oxide inks and some blues and a couple of greens. I probably should have left out the greens because technically pickleball courts are blues, but this is card making, right? So we can do whatever we want in card making land. I only know that because I Googled the colors for pickleball, so clearly we're not about accuracy today because, like I said, this is card making and we can do whatever we want. But I got carried away with the smushing, and once you start having fun with Distress Oxides, it's kind of hard to stop, y'all. I originally planned for a couple of colors, and well, things got a little wild in my craft room. But honestly, that's half the fun of ink smushing, because I really just wanted a really light background with a couple of colors like I did on my first card that I created. So if you've never tried ink smushing, Distress Oxides are perfect for it. They layer so well, and because they are a hybrid ink, you get that soft, almost chalky watercolor look without a ton of effort. And the oxidized layers give you that texture and depth that just make backgrounds so interesting. Plus, we're going for a sporty pickleball vibe here. The blues still feel really appropriate, even with the green sneaking in. So just so fun. And like I said, get out your Distress ink, Oxide inks and give this a try. Now, if you're newer to ink smushing, in which you probably aren't, because ink smushing is an old technique. It's been around forever. And there's a lot of videos about it. So just know there's always that moment where the background looks absolutely chaotic and you're convinced you ruined it. That's just the part of the process. Ink smushing has this ugly duckling stage where everything looks too wet, too splotchy, too muddy, or just plain questionable. And then you dry it and a few more layers and suddenly it's like, oh, okay, that actually looks really cool. So Distress Oxides especially love to freak you out in the middle stages because the layers start to oxidize at different speeds and you don't really see what you've got until it's completely dry. So don't panic, y'all, if it doesn't look perfect when it's wet. Ink smushing is one of those techniques where you just have to trust the process and keep going. And remember to dry in between layers. That's an important part, to dry in between the layers. So worst case, you flip the cardstock over and start again. Ask me how I know. I've done that a few times. So, and honestly, for cards like this, where the focal images do the heavy lifting, the background doesn't need to be perfect. Remember, we're not trying to be perfect this year with our card making. So it just needs to have some texture, movement, and color to support the scene. Once the paddles, the net, and the ball go on, the background suddenly makes sense and doesn't feel nearly as wild as it did in the beginning. So I'm working on my Glassboard Studio magnetic glass mat, like always. I love this thing so much. It's my favorite mat I've ever had. It's such a great surface for messy techniques like this, like ink smushing, because cleanup is super easy. You just wipe everything off and you're good to go. Plus, it's, like I said, it's magnetic, so if you're doing die cutting, embossing, stenciling, or even just holding the little pieces in place, it really comes in handy. I honestly don't know how I crafted without it. Okay, so I'm adding in the greens like I talked about earlier now, and you can really see how fun this technique is. Ink smushing is just one of those things that refuses to behave politely at the beginning. It always starts out looking a little wild, like I was talking about, like you've just committed some sort of craft-related crime against perfectly good cardstock. But once it dries down and the layers settle, it suddenly starts coming together and looking intentional. Now that everything is mostly dry, I actually really love how this background turned out. You can still see the movement from the blues, and the little hints of green add just enough interest without taking over. This is the part of the process that makes me glad I didn't give up halfway through, because the ugly stage is always loud, but this dry stage is like, okay, calm down, I got this. See how cool this is looking? And that's the thing with ink smushing. Never give up on your backgrounds and don't throw them out ever, y'all. Even the ones that look a little questionable in the moment can become something great. Once they dry or once you cut them down, you can always use them for something. Trim off the weird parts, punch a circle out of it, use it for sentiments, die cut it out into shapes, or tuck it behind a focal point. Backgrounds always get a second life in card making. I swear, some of my favorite cards started as I'm about to toss this backgrounds. Distress Oxides are especially forgiving because the layers and splatter do so much work for you once everything settles. Okay, I was just trying to fix the card panel there. I was trying to heat the panel from the bottom with my heat gun to flatten it out because it did get a little warped from all the inks and water that's been put on it. So yeah, just trying to fix the warping. So did I maybe go a little nuts with the ink smooshing? Possibly, but we're embracing it, and then we'll see how it works out in the end. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, especially wait till the end till I'll see it come together. Okay, on to the next step, which is going to be splatter time, my favorite. Splatter fixes almost everything, and it adds a little bit of texture and chaos that just makes a background feel finished. Okay, so the background's not completely done yet because it's time to add some splatter, y'all. And I've got my Tim Holtz splat box out to help contain the splatter mist because we all know splatter likes to stick to absolutely everything in the craft room and anywhere else you might be crafting. Ask me how I know. So for the splatter, one of the products today for splatter, I'm going to be using Spellbinders Splatter White, which is an opaque watercolor, and it comes in this tiny little jar. A little goes a long way with this stuff. I'm using a fan brush from my paintbrush stash to tap the splatter onto the cardstock. So I like a fan brush for this because they give you those nice little fine speckles without big blobs unless you really load it up. And let's talk about splatter for a second because it has a mind of its own. It doesn't matter how careful you think you are being, splatter will find a way to get on your hands, your sweater, your cutting plates, probably the dog, and definitely the project you didn't intend to splatter. So that's why I covered things to the right there because I didn't want my die cuts to get splatter on it. So the splat box is doing the Lord's work today by keeping most of it contained. The splatter white is really fun because it dries opaque, so the speckles stay bright on top of the distress oxides. And with that fan brush, you get those nice smaller droplets that look intentional instead of oops moments. Although, let's be honest, I've had plenty of those too. Okay, so I added just a tiny bit of water there to help get the right splatter consistency. You don't want it too thick or nothing comes off the brush, and if it's too watery you end up with big blobs instead of those nice little speckles. So once it looked about right, I tapped the fan brush over the background and let the splatter do its thing. And again, this is why we're using the splat box, because splatter has no respect for personal boundaries and will absolutely travel if you let it. And I'm just getting out my water bottle there to clean off the splatter white that got on my desk. Okay, so next up, I'm bringing in the Spellbinders Splatter Effects called Sparkle. This one is really fun because it adds a little shimmer to the background, and honestly, I just wanted to use it. It comes in another tiny bottle, and it actually has a paintbrush built into the cap, so it's super easy to apply. I'm just going to sprinkle this all over the background and let it do its thing. I hope the camera is picking it up because the sparkle, it looks really pretty in person. It's subtle until it hits the light, and then you get that nice little shimmer moment. And you want to really shake this bottle up before you use it. So remember to do that. Okay, so just remember with the sparkle and the splatter white, it does take a little extra drying time, especially if you add more than a light coat. So I'm just going to let that sit for a minute, and then I'm going to bring in my heat tool because, well, I'm impatient. And just remember with sparkle products like this, I find that they look better when they air dry because you don't risk dulling the shine or accidentally pushing it around. Once it dries, you get that really pretty shimmer that catches the light, but it doesn't compete with the petals or the scene. It's one of those details that you notice more in person than on camera, I think. I think the camera's picking it up, but I'm not quite, I think it is. But I love adding it anyway because it gives the background a little bit of magic without going full glitter, which we all know can take over your life and your craft space if you let it. Okay, y'all, I really am loving this DIY ink smooshing tool. It's fabulous, and it makes such great backgrounds. It just gives me a little more control than smooshing straight down onto the glass mat or a different kind of surface. And I think that's why I keep reaching for it. And honestly, I really like how this background turned out. It's got that loose watercolor look without being too messy, and the sparkle just adds that extra touch. I'm seeing that when I tilt it in the light, I can see it. Okay, so I wanted to trim down this background a bit, and when I need a cute finished edge, I always reach for the Heartfelt Things and Scallops die set. I love these scallops. They just make everything look a little more intentional and pulled together without me having to overthink it. So I'm grabbing the largest die in the set, and I'm going to run it through my Spellbinders Platinum 6 die cutting machine to give this background a nice framed look before adding the paddles and building this little scene. So scallops are such a good trick for backgrounds like this because they add detail without competing with the main design. Okay, so now I'm just going to run it through my die cutting machine to get that scallop edge cut out. I'm using the largest die that fits the panel perfectly, so it trims things down without taking off too much of the background. So once that's all die cut out, I've got this really cute scallop background ready to go. I love how the edge frames the ink smushing and sparkle without covering anything up or making it feel too busy. It gives the whole panel a nice finished look and pulls everything together in a really simple way. So now that the background is done, I can move on to the fun part and start building the little pickleball scene with the paddles, net, and ball. Okay, y'all, and here is one last look at this background before I start assembling. Let me show it to you real quick. And voila, there it is. Okay, I told you all this was going to be a little bit longer video for me today. But, so all right, on to the next step. I'm grabbing some waterfall cardstock from Spellbinders, and I'm going to make an A2 top folded note card using my Score Buddy and my bone folder. I'm really hoping this cardstock is going to play nicely with the background I just made. What do y'all think? Let me know. I keep going back and forth on whether I should have just stuck with a white note card instead. I'm not the best when it comes to picking card base colors, so I tend to just second guess myself and usually just go with white. But we're going to go ahead and go for it. So now I'm holding this up and asking myself, does this really match? Ugh, I'm almost regretting this part already, but I'm going to go ahead and commit. So I'm getting out my Spellbinders tape runner and adhering the background to the card base. See, I keep going back and forth there. So I probably should have popped it up with my Altenew foam tape for a little dimension, but oh well, too late now. See, this, I'm just playing around with placement here and fiddling. I don't know, y'all. Should I have really gone with the white note card? But I'm going to go with it. Like I said, I'm going to just go ahead and commit to that. And I'm getting out my Spellbinders tape runner and going to adhere the background to the card base. Like I said, I probably should have popped it up, but that's okay. Sometimes you just have to roll with it and trust that the rest of the card is going to distract from your questionable color decisions. Then I started playing around with the layout to decide if I wanted a vertical or horizontal card. This card has given me a little bit of trouble, y'all. So this set works great in both directions, so I had to try a couple different ways. I like showing this part because this is literally how I figure out my card design. It's just moving things around until something clicks. See, this could work both ways. I really actually like this way, but I ended up going with the original card design. I'm trimming down the netting so it fits better onto the card, and once I get that where I want it, it's time to start gluing everything down. I'll pop up the pickleball for a little dimension so it sits on top of the scene instead of blending in. And you know what? I actually think the colors are working out okay. I really do. I was worried for a minute there, but now that everything's coming together on the card front, it looks intentional and cohesive, don't you think? So here I'm adding little tiny dots of glue to the back of the netting and getting it into place first. I like starting with the net because once that's down, the scene starts to make a lot more sense and you can see where everything else wants to go. Then I'll bring in the paddles and finally add the pickleball on top. Once those 3 pieces are down, it really starts to look like a little pickleball court instead of just a bunch of die cuts floating around. It's always fun when it hits that stage and you can see the design come together. Okay, so I'm still kind of nervous about this card, y'all. I don't know why, but it's getting my anxiety up a little bit. Part of me is sitting here thinking, did I really need that many rounds of ink smushing? Maybe I should have just kept it simple with a blue background and minded my own business. But in the moment, I was having a blast, and once you're in the zone with distress oxide inks, all logic goes right out the window. So now I'm committed, and it is what it is. The glue is dry, and the pieces are stuck, and I'm just going to see it through. Sometimes that's the fun part about card making, y'all. You make bold choice, question it 3 steps later, and then hope it all comes together in the end. So just gluing down the last paddle here, and then I'm going to move on to the next step, which is finishing assembling, and I have to do the sentiment because we need a sentiment for this card because there's a lot of fun punny sentiments in this clear stamp set that comes with it. So really cool. Okay, so I'm getting out the clear stamps that coordinate with this set, and I'm going to do some free range stamping with an acrylic block, y'all. And this stamp set is just so fun. It's got a lot of fun sentiments in here. So I don't know why I didn't get my Misty out for this. It's sitting to the left of me. I could have just grabbed it. But anyways, I'm just going with it. I'm going to do some old-fashioned free range stamping. The Misty would have been the smarter choice because I wouldn't have messed up. But anyways, I'm getting out a piece of scrap paper here, Distress Oxide ink and Salty Ocean. And gonna get ready to stamp it. So sometimes it's nice just to go back to basics and just stamp without overthinking it. So keeping my fingers crossed. Here we go. Oh no, I messed up. So I gotta ink it up again. I don't like how that one looks. This is where the Misty would have come in handy. Here we go. We got this. All right, that looks great. I'm going to go with that one. So once the sentiment is stamped, I'm going to use the coordinating sentiment strip die to cut it out with my Empress Mini. I love having a little machine on my desk for things like this because it makes quick work of tiny dies and I don't have to get up and haul out my big die cutter again. After all, it cut out, I'll pop up the sentiment on some foam and place it right on the card front. Okay, y'all, so as I finish up the sentiment here, just popping it out there, it's going to be time to add a little sequence to the card because no card is truly finished without a little touch of sequence. So just a few pieces to tie everything together and give it that final polished look. And for the sequence, I'm using Chameleon Opalescence from the Color Essential sequence from Spellbinders. I thought that really finished off the card nicely. And so just gonna wrap up this long video. I know this was really long for me. But anyways, this was super fun for me to make, and I really enjoyed taking more time and chatting through my process with y'all. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed making it. And remember to do all the YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I really appreciate y'all being here. As always, I'll have my Spellbinders affiliate links listed down below in the description box. Using my links help let Spellbinders know that I sent you, and I appreciate that support so much. Thank you for hanging out with me today, and I will see you all in the next video.